What happens when a fifth-round rookie walks into an NFL practice and makes million-dollar quarterbacks look like extras in his highlight reel? That's exactly what the Cleveland Browns are facing right now, and it's shaking the league in ways nobody saw coming. The Browns' quarterback room was already crowded. A four-man battle featuring veterans, draft picks, and future projects. Dillon Gabriel, the so-called golden boy out of Oklahoma, was supposed to be the story. The cameras were ready, the headlines pre-written, and the spotlight polished for his big NFL coronation. But then, Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field, and suddenly, Gabriel wasn't just overshadowed, he was erased. This wasn't a casual competition. This was a takeover. Sanders didn't walk in looking for permission. He stormed in like he already owned stock in the NFL. Every snap dripped with confidence. Every throw sliced through the air with precision, and every movement carried the kind of swagger that made scouts lean forward in their chairs. He wasn't just trying to earn a roster spot. He was selling the idea that the Browns' future had just arrived. And the wildest part? The reactions told the whole story. From the stunned looks on the sidelines to the Browns' press conference. Billionaire owner Jimmy Haslam scribbling notes like he just stumbled onto a gold mine. The shift was undeniable. Fans didn't need a box score. They saw it with their own eyes. One man ran drills, the other ran the room. So tonight, we're diving into how Shedeur Sanders flipped the script, hijacked the spotlight, and forced an entire franchise to rethink its quarterback future. Buckle up, because this isn't just football anymore. This is a culture shift, and you're about to see how it started. The Cleveland Browns have never made quarterback stability look easy. In fact, their QB room has often felt less like a strategy and more like a revolving door. This season, things look just as messy. Four quarterbacks battling for attention, from seasoned veterans to fresh rookies trying to make a name. At the center of it all was Dillon Gabriel, the polished third-round pick out of Oklahoma, branded as the future starter before he ever stepped onto the field. Gabriel's arrival came with expectation. He was the golden boy, the clean prospect, the guy scouts said had the mechanics, the accuracy, and the maturity to maybe, just maybe, steady the Browns' quarterback chaos. The stage was set for him to shine. Practices were organized around his debut. Media stories framed him as the next chapter, and fans tuned in expecting confirmation that Gabriel was the right choice. But here's the thing about sports. The script never plays out the way it's written. In the middle of this orchestrated coronation, a fifth-round rookie named Shedeur Sanders quietly walked in. No big press rollout, no grand narrative, just a chance to throw the football. And in that moment, everything changed. From the very first snap, it was clear that Sanders wasn't there to play background. While Gabriel went through the motions with textbook precision, Sanders brought something different: presence. He looked like he belonged, like he had already been here before. It wasn't arrogance, it was ownership. The Browns thought they were hosting a workout, but what they got was the opening act of a takeover. Gabriel was supposed to be the headline. Instead, he found himself reduced to a supporting role in someone else's story. And as the day unfolded, the balance of power inside that QB room started to tilt in a way nobody, not the coaches, not the media, not even the owner, could ignore. Because in Cleveland, a competition that was supposed to be about who fits best suddenly became a showcase of who can't be ignored. From the very first throw, it was obvious that this wasn't going to be Dillon Gabriel's day. His footwork was clean, his passes accurate enough, and his demeanor calm. But nothing about it demanded attention. Gabriel looked like he was applying for a steady desk job. The kind of performance that checks every box without inspiring anyone to stand up and cheer. Then came Shedeur Sanders. Sanders didn't just step onto the field. He stormed it. His first pass snapped through the air like it had been fired out of a cannon. And suddenly, every scout, coach, and reporter leaned forward. There was no warm-up period, no settling in. From snap one, Sanders carried himself like the franchise was already his. The mechanics were razor sharp, the ball placement surgical, and the swagger undeniable. It didn't feel like a tryout. It felt like a statement. While Gabriel was still reading through progressions, Shedeur was already zipping lasers, slapping hands with teammates, and commanding the huddle like a veteran quarterback. His confidence radiated across the field, the kind of energy that makes receivers run routes harder and linemen block longer. This wasn't just execution. It was leadership on display. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Gabriel, steady but quiet, looked like a safe option for the future. Sanders, meanwhile, looked like the future itself. He didn't just outplay Dillon, he erased him. Every throw was crisp, every decision decisive, and every rep pushed the narrative further. This wasn't Gabriel's showcase anymore. It was supposed to be Dillon's coronation. Instead, it turned into Sanders' hostile takeover. Think Wall Street merger colliding with Sunday Night Football. Loud, fast, and leaving no survivors. By the time practice wrapped, it wasn't about stats on the clipboard. It was about presence. Gabriel ran drills. Sanders ran the room. And in a league where perception can be just as important as production, that difference was everything. If you really want to measure the impact of a player, don't just watch the field. Watch the owner's face. And that's exactly where the cameras turned when Shedeur Sanders started lighting it up. Jimmy Haslam, the billionaire owner of the Cleveland Browns, is no stranger to quarterback drama. He's poured hundreds of millions into failed franchise saviors, from draft busts to controversial superstars. He's seen more broken promises under center than most fans could stomach in a lifetime. Normally, Haslam sits through these workouts with the kind of detached poker face you'd expect from a man who's already lost faith too many times. Arms crossed, eyes blank, waiting for the next disappointment. But this time was different. The moment Sanders started firing off passes, Haslam leaned in. First it was subtle, a slight head tilt, a raised eye. Then came the scribbling in his notebook, the kind of gesture so rare it went viral online within minutes. Fans clipped it, analysts replayed it, and social media lit up. What exactly was Jimmy writing down? Was it just mechanics notes? Or was he sketching the outline of a future that didn't include Dillon Gabriel at all? Because make no mistake, Haslam wasn't reacting to a standard rookie showcase. He was reacting like a man who just stumbled across an opportunity he didn't expect. A quarterback who looked NFL ready, but without the baggage, without the scandals, without the weight of a $230 million contract hanging over his head. Just raw talent wrapped in charisma, standing right in front of him. It was the kind of reaction that said more than any press conference ever could. And it wasn't just the owner noticing. The buzz spread instantly. Scouts whispering, coaches glancing at each other, media reps tapping headlines into their phones. One throw at a time, Sanders wasn't just winning over teammates. He was making the most powerful man in the building take notes like a fan in the bleachers. And that moment changed everything. If Shedeur Sanders stole the field, the media made sure the world knew it within minutes. What began as Dillon Gabriel's big showcase quickly turned into a full-blown Sanders highlight reel, plastered across every platform. Analysts who started the morning breaking down Gabriel's polished mechanics and NFL-ready footwork suddenly shifted mid-broadcast. By the end of practice, they weren't even saying his name. Instead, every segment opened with, "Did you see what Shedeur just did?" Social media? That was a whole different storm. Gabriel's clips, once hyped by Oklahoma fans and draft analysts, quietly disappeared from timelines. In their place, slow-motion replays of Sanders dropping dimes. Side-by-side comparisons showing his confidence, and fans flooding the comments with one question. Why wasn't this guy drafted higher? And it wasn't just fans. NFL reporters started buzzing that Jimmy Haslam's sideline scribbles weren't just about mechanics, but about possibilities. Possibilities that the Browns, a franchise notorious for quarterback instability, had just tripped over a future star by accident. For Cleveland fans, this was gasoline on a long, smoldering fire. They've lived through decades of disappointment, clinging to every quarterback rumor like it might finally bring salvation. Now, suddenly, here was Sanders. Calm, composed, electric, standing on their practice field, making a third-round pick look like a footnote. Browns Twitter exploded. Hashtags like Start Shedeur and Sanders era began trending before the players had even left the locker room. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel? Forgotten. Analysts described him with words like solid, serviceable, and depth option. The kind of faint praise that might as well be a warning label. Backup material. Fans didn't even debate it. They moved on. Because in the NFL, the narrative moves fast, and Sanders owned it before Gabriel could even catch his breath. What was supposed to be Gabriel's introduction to the league became Sanders' coronation in real time, and the frenzy wasn't dying down. It was only building momentum. Football isn't just about arm strength or playbooks anymore. It's about identity. And the clash between Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders exposed that divide in the most brutal way possible. On one side, you had Gabriel, polished, respectful, a quiet worker who follows instructions to the letter. He's the type of quarterback the old guard loves. Play within the system, don't make waves, and let your performance speak for itself. It's a safe approach, the kind of quarterback prototype that feels reliable, but rarely electric. On the other side, Sanders, a new generation, confident without apology, commanding without hesitation. He didn't just throw the ball, he sold the moment. Every snap felt like an event, every pass like a headline. And in a league where perception matters just as much as production, that difference is seismic. Because the NFL isn't just drafting players anymore. They're drafting brands, leaders who can move merchandise, grab headlines, and galvanize fan bases. Gabriel's performance felt like a resume. Sanders' performance felt like a revolution. The contrast was almost uncomfortable to watch. Gabriel checked boxes. Sanders broke the mold. Gabriel looked like a quarterback candidate. Sanders looked like the quarterback standard. It was old school versus new school, tradition against evolution. And fans didn't need an analyst to explain it. They felt it in their gut. Even the locker room reflected the shift. Teammates gravitated toward Sanders. His voice carried louder in the huddle, his energy contagious. Gabriel, meanwhile, faded into the background. The kind of guy teammates respect but don't rally behind. And that's the culture clash unfolding in real time. The safe, structured quarterback versus the disruptive, marketable force. One whispers potential, the other screams inevitability. For the Browns and for Jimmy Haslam, the question isn't just who throws the better ball. It's who represents the future of football. And on that field, the answer looked impossible to ignore. Here's the truth nobody in the NFL ever admits out loud. It's not just about touchdowns, it's about dollars. Quarterbacks aren't only judged by their arms. They're judged by how many tickets they sell, how many jerseys fly off the shelves, and how many headlines they generate on Monday morning. And in that department, Shedeur Sanders doesn't just compete, he dominates. Think about it. Gabriel is a solid quarterback prospect. Respectable mechanics, accurate arm, good locker room presence. But does he light up the scoreboard and the scoreboard of public opinion? Not really. His brand is safe, quiet, and contained. If he succeeds, he'll be known as the dependable guy. That's not bad, but it doesn't move billions. Now look at Sanders. The name alone carries weight. He's the son of Dillon Sanders, one of the biggest icons the sport has ever seen. That connection already gives him a spotlight before he even takes a snap. But here's the kicker. He doesn't rely on his father's legacy. Shedeur has built his own brand with millions of followers, viral highlights, and a personality that feels bigger than the game itself. When he walks onto a field, he's not just a quarterback. He's a headline, a marketing machine, a walking franchise. And Jimmy Haslam knows it. Owners think in numbers, and the math is simple. Gabriel is a third-round pick with potential. Sanders is a fifth-round pick who could double ticket sales overnight. Which one would you rather gamble on? Even fans can feel it. Jerseys with Sanders' name were already trending online after the practice clips hit social media. Memes, edits, highlight reels. The internet wasn't waiting for the Browns to make a decision. The people had made theirs. Because in today's NFL, the safe choice isn't always the right choice. Teams want talent, yes, but they also want someone who can be the face of the franchise. Someone who can fill stadiums, dominate headlines, and turn Sunday football into a spectacle. And that's what Shedeur represents. Not just a quarterback, but a billion-dollar brand in cleats. By the end of that practice, it wasn't just about who threw the prettier ball. It was about who changed the entire narrative. And the fallout was immediate. Dillon Gabriel walked in expecting the spotlight. Instead, he left as a footnote. Analysts described him as solid, serviceable, even a dependable backup. But nobody tunes in to primetime to watch serviceable. The NFL is a league built on stars, and in Cleveland, that star wasn't Gabriel, it was Sanders. The whispers started fast. Reporters noting Haslam's sudden interest. Teammates dropping hints that Sanders' voice carried louder in the huddle. Fans storming social media with hashtags demanding he leapfrog the depth chart. It was no longer about whether he'd make the roster. It was about how long the Browns could ignore what everyone else was already seeing. And here's where it gets messy. Cleveland already invested $230 million into Deshaun Watson. He's supposed to be the unquestioned starter. But the NFL is ruthless when perception shifts. Imagine the headlines if Watson struggles while Sanders lights up preseason highlights. Imagine the boos raining down as fans chant for the rookie over the franchise quarterback. That's not a dream. That's a nightmare for a front office. Then there's Gabriel, caught in the worst possible spot. He's too good to cut, not electric enough to excite. In another city, he might carve out a nice role. But in Cleveland, he's been swallowed whole by the Sanders effect. The narrative isn't Gabriel versus Shedeur. It's Watson versus Sanders. Gabriel isn't even in the conversation anymore. And the fallout doesn't just stop with the depth chart. This is a cultural shift. The Browns thought they were drafting quarterbacks. What they actually drafted was a revolution. Because now, every rep Sanders takes, every pass he throws, and every headline he sparks adds pressure. Pressure on Watson, pressure on Gabriel, pressure on the Browns' front office. The question isn't whether Shedeur Sanders can play. The question is how long Cleveland can hold back a tidal wave before it drowns the entire quarterback room. When the dust settled, one truth stood taller than all the stats, scouting reports, and draft grades. Dillon Gabriel ran drills. Shedeur Sanders ran the room. The Browns entered camp expecting a tidy quarterback battle. A third-round pick polishing his resume, a fifth-round rookie learning the ropes, and veterans steadying the ship. Instead, they got a storyline that flipped the entire franchise on its head. Sanders didn't just play well, he forced people to rethink everything they thought they knew about Cleveland's future. And that's the real power here. It wasn't just the flows, the footwork, or the swagger. It was the ripple effect. One rookie showed up, and suddenly the owner was scribbling notes. The media was rewriting headlines, and fans were already imagining his name on the back of orange jerseys. That doesn't happen with serviceable quarterbacks. That only happens when you witness something you can't ignore. For Gabriel, the fallout is harsh. He was supposed to be the story. Instead, he became the backdrop. For Watson, the danger is looming. One bad stretch, one ugly performance, and the chance for Sanders will be deafening. And for the Browns as a franchise, the clock has already started ticking. Do they stick to the plan, or do they ride the momentum of a phenom who refuses to wait his turn? Because here's the truth. The NFL isn't patient. Stars don't wait in the shadows anymore. They take the stage, whether teams are ready or not. Sanders didn't ask for permission. He didn't ease his way in. He walked into Cleveland's quarterback circus, grabbed the mic, and made it his show. And the Browns, whether they like it or not, just found themselves at the beginning of a revolution. So now the only question left is this: how long before Shedeur Sanders isn't just running the room, but running the franchise?